Hello, it's CJ Miller. I'm in my kitchen in Shreveport, Louisiana, my downtown apartment. Love downtown. Just across the Red River is beautiful Bossier City, Louisiana. If you're passing through this holiday season, stop in and check us out. And if you need some suggestions, get in touch with me in the comments. I'll find some things that suit your interests. So, like a lot of people growing up in my generation in particular, um, we often watched cooking shows. I just it was I guess people still do that, but growing up, like we didn't always have cable TV in the areas that I lived. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and cable TV came around in mid in the mid 70s and on, for us in the areas that I lived in. And it wasn't even an expanded cable like we have now. Maybe you get like an extra like 10 or so channels and maybe one or two premiums like an HBO or something like that. Uh, but yeah. Um, but needless to say, so we had three networks and then we had U, which is the UHF, the channels uh, that we could pick up there, I guess different frequencies. And sometimes we'd pick up one or two networks, but it was really the PBS, the public broadcasting uh, system, or yeah, that's the one that really gave me, it kept me educated in between school years. I loved to watch the children's programming on PBS during the summertime and on weekends and everything. As much as I loved the Saturday morning cartoons and the Schoolhouse Rocky cartoons and the specials and everything, I loved. You see, I loved, I loved those things. Uh, the Electric Company, being one of my favorites. Sesame Street, of course. Mister Rogers. Neighborhood, and what was 321 Contact. I didn't quite get with that. So it was not quite as fun when I tried to watch it. Um, but later on, I did check out a lot of Mr. Wizard on Nickelodeon, But I will tell you what really, uh, my favorite, the cooking programs. We would see the cooking programs, and I loved them. And I would find out which chefs that I liked. I would find them, and I was a regular viewer, and so I uh, loved that. I loved that format. I loved everything. The earliest was probably Chef Tell, who was a guy on a magazine program called what was it? Um, Give me a second. I'll think of it. I just had it on the tip of my tongue. Um, but I do remember Chef Tell. Maybe it was PM Magazine or something like that. Uh, was the name of the show, but he had his cooking segment on there. Later on, well, everybody knew about Julia Child. She was kind of the gold standard in cooking programs and really French TV. I mean, French cooking, and of course, she had the personality and the voice and everything, and you do that, it's a very robust way of speaking. Oh, So, anyway, yeah. So, but yeah, no. It's one of my favorites. Was probably Jeff Smith, otherwise known as the Frugal Gourmet. And then, of course, later on, he got in. Uh, there were some accusations made against him as far as like sexual impropriety or something like that. And soon after that, he just kind of like went off the air. But he was kind of my favorite in the way that he cooked because I love the idea of frugalness. I love the idea of chopping something up and using all of it. But I'm from Louisiana and spent some time in New Orleans at working as a back waiter in a restaurant called Delmonico. Uh, And by this time, it had been bought by Emeril Lagasse uh, of St. Louis, of the St. Louis, Italian Cajun uh, heritage. But he really loves French cooking and the Cajun influence and everything like that. So, yeah, he has several restaurants around New Orleans. At the time, there were four. There were Emeralds. He had bought Delmonico. And Delmonico's, uh, they got famous in New York because their first restaurant, the family's restaurant, Delmonico, was in New York. And basically, what they did was uh, took the fillet and they cut the fillet part of the steak of the beef. Uh, they crossed it and they cut it much thicker, and then they cut it in the opposite direction of a traditional fillet. Um, and so it's very thick. And sometimes, when people are cooking it, they'll ask, "Hey, by the way, do you want us to butterfly the steak so it can be blah blah blah?" And I'm like, "No, you don't go through all this trouble, basically creating a cut of steak that some people argue is just a thick fillet, but it's the fillet portion, but it's uh, cut differently, and it's cut thick and everything, and so it has a slightly different shape to it, but it's still just as tender and just as juicy. But you don't go through all that to mutilate the shape, and so yeah, I do not get in with butterflying a thick cut of a steak. If you want that, just go ahead and get two thinner cuts. Don't be dull. Anyway, but yeah. Well, so a lot of you will know what's in this here, ready to go, and it's called a mirepoix. Basically, a mixture of chopped vegetables, and beginning this is what is lovingly nicknamed in New Orleans, and basically just became a thing that people say. They're more colloquially, and I don't know if it's how widespread it is beyond that, but it's we call it the Trinity. Some people call it the Holy Trinity. Basically, it's carrots, celery, and bell pepper. To that, I add, and some people think of it as celery, onion, and bell pepper. I think of it as celery, carrots, and bell pepper. That's the way I learned it. I don't always have carrots on hand. I do today. But to that, I did add chopped onion, and I did add chopped garlic. Just a little bit of chopped garlic. Fresh chopped garlic goes a long way in this. And what I'm going to do is and there's three types of bell peppers. There's a red and green pepper and a little bit of yellow pepper. Uh, Basically, that's pretty, gives it a good flavor. Each one of those has a little bit of a different flavor, but also gives it a vibrant color. What we're going to do, or what I'm going to do, is I'm going to kind of sweat this down in just a little bit of oil, a little bit of black pepper, just a little bit of salt, not too much, don't want to overdo it, and basically just sweat this down uh, in the fat and kind of render a little, but basically just to get a little bit of a caramelization. Once these white onions become translucent, that's when we want to go ahead and take this off the heat and take it out. And then I can separate some of it, and then some of it's going to go to some other dishes, and then a good deal of it, primarily, probably most of it's going to go into a rice dish that I'm preparing. That's going to be not quite a jambalaya, uh, you know, uh, but it will have some things in common. It's going to be a rice blend. I'm going to put uh, you know, uh, yeah, just rice, and I'm gonna boil it down in the vegetable broth, and maybe I'll add a little bit of sausage to it. Some seasonings that you might think of as a Cajun seasoning, um, just a little bit. but I really don't want to overpower. It's going to be one of the side dishes that I'm going to serve on Thanksgiving. So this is the beginning of my madness. And the reason why I'm doing this is because it's going to keep very well. I'm going to cook it. I'm going to store it in this great container. It's wonderful. Uh, and this is a tip. I'm going to pre-prepare this, and so I'm just going to be able to basically steam it in the microwave. Uh, uh, and honestly, I love really, really fresh food, but I'm doing so many different things. I've got at least 10 people, possibly more, dropping by uh, at some time on Thursday. And so it's got two turkeys, a spiral ham to cook, and I'm going to do all of those the early morning and to the day going into the afternoon. So all that's going to be fresh. So some of the side dishes I can pre-prepare. I'm going to do that. I'm going to have I do a creme brulee has become kind of like a thing that I just love to make, which is basically um, heavy cream, uh, sweetened with vanilla and egg yolks, sugar, and just kind of just kind of like warmed up, stirred, put into you know uh, ramekin cups, finished off in the oven. So this it's basically the cooking is almost a four step process. Even though it's a very easy recipe, very simple to remember, it takes 4 steps to do it. Uh, if you include the browning of the sugar. Now, depending upon uh, how hot the oven is, I may brown sugar on top of it and get that caramelization. And if I feel like the oven's too hot and uh, my kitchen torch I had, it's not working. So, and I'm not going to run out and get another one right now. I have a lot of stuff to do. But so I'm going to brown them in the oven. I'm going to put the oven on broil, put them in as long as the oven gets cooled off enough that I feel like it can do that. Maybe what I'll possibly do is that, and then if I don't feel that I'm going to be able to do that or warm it in the toaster oven fast enough, then what I can do is I actually have some caramel sauce that works great, provides a wonderful flavor on top of the custard filling, uh, and that's another option, But anyway, what else am I doing? Mashed potatoes. We're going to do mashed potatoes. We're going to do, I've got some kale and some red skin potatoes. I'm going to roast some red skin potatoes uh, and kind of toss those around in some sauteed kale and serve those in the same bowl together. A little bit of a chopped garlic on top of that for good measure. Of course, we got a good dressing. I love to put ground sausage in mine and chopped up egg. Instead of using giblet, I use a couple of boiled eggs, chop them up, and that kind of gives the texture of giblet. But I don't really like sometimes giblet, turkey giblet, or even chicken. When you cook it, and it can become a little mealy, and I'm not overly fond of that flavor. There's going to be wonderful flavor in these turkeys anyway, uh, and I'll use some of that to render a gravy that we can use over the turkey and the mashed potatoes. What else am I doing? Brussels sprouts, roasted Brussels sprouts. I've got a salad blend picked out, and yeah, we're gonna have plenty uh, of things like this going on. And then, of course, I'll have a few cakes that I'll make on the side. And then, of course, just some light snackage, before the meal. It's not going to be too ostentatious, the uh, the um, the amuse bouche, because I really just don't want people to be, I don't want people to fill up on that. Like a lot of times, if I do real heavy um, charcuterie pre-courses or whatever, then by the time I present the main meal, people are kind of full, and we really don't get stuffed like we should on the turkey and the dressing. And I want people to really appreciate the main meal this year, so I've decided to scale back on that. So I'm not, we'll have some deviled eggs. We'll have like some chips, maybe. I've got a really, really great spiced peanut butter dip that I want to bring out, maybe with some celery, to dip this. But I don't really want big heavy appetizers to spoil the main meal this year. Uh, so anyway, let's see what else. Oh, there'll be some bread for the table, of course. Uh, some dinner rolls that I'm going to make. But let's see. Mainly, and I've got a food processor, but I really enjoy the chopping the vegetables myself. I can leave them a little bit bigger. That lets them stay a little bit crisper uh, as they cook down. The main vegetables will still be a little bit crisp by the time the onions become translucent, like almost to the point you almost want to see them, like you almost want to see through them like window glass, but that's an unrealistic thing. But by the time the onions are done, these other crispy vegetables are still going to be firm, and I kind of want that. I want that texture to be within the rice that I'm going to be cooking for the big part of it. Oh, I forgot. I'm going to do a manicotti. With the cheese sauce filled manicotti instead of a traditional macaroni and cheese. I got these large uh, manicotti. Some people would think of it as, let me find it. Sometimes it's called cannoli also, but cannoli usually I think of it as instead of a pasta, I think of that as more of a pastry. But either way, but it's really the shape of it. And so, yeah, and my nails are not so much dirty. I have a nail polish, a silver nail polish on them, uh, as I was using it to help guide me when I was playing guitar. And also because I have a tendency to bite my nails. Instead of biting my nails, what I'll do is I'll scrape off the nail polish with my teeth. I don't know, it's a disgusting habit. If you don't bite your nails, don't bite your nails. But anyway, the nails are not delicious. Anyway, what else? That's about it. I hope I didn't spoil the appetite talking about my nails. It's just anyway. So what's going to happen with that large pasta? It's gonna swell up as I cook them, and then I'm going to layer them out almost like a lasagna. But then I'm going to pour the cheese sauce, a very rich cheese sauce uh, made with milk and cheese, combining it, and just yeah, um, and maybe. Uh, just a touch of some garlic, or whatever I decide to do with it, But it's basically going to be wonderful and delicious. I really love being able to cook and entertain for people. Can you tell? Okay, so now a lot of things that we're seeing in the news, ground beef, celery, onion, carrot. At one point, they've all been recalled at some point during the year. But I'm not too concerned because I'm not really serving these things raw. I'm cooking them very well, so there's not going to be an E. coli or anything like that. So when you really cook very very well, you kill those things. And we'll wash the celery very well before I set it out. And of course, people have their options, but I hope everybody has a safe Thanksgiving this year. Um, it's like, I really get concerned about, sanitation, how well food is. And people have seen me in my kitchen, and it's like between like chopping half a whatever, every time I get a little vegetable juice or whatever I'm chopping on my hand, I'm back over to the sink with the hot water and the antibacterial soap. I'm very sanitary with food and in the kitchen. I'm always scrubbing my hands, which is what a good chef and a good sous chef should do. So, always keep that in mind. Food is about nutrition, it's about deliciousness, it's an art, but it's also about health, good health. So, with that, love and light, peace, and happy holidays.